Spanish X drill. Emilio Sanchez was pushing this back when he was pushing his academy. And you can see the player there. He's going back to the home area. He calls Sanchez calls the home, and then he goes back, plays defense, back to the home, and then attacks, comes in and plays an attacking backhand or attacking forehand, and he makes an X. And that's the X drill. And the reason I would use this if I was gonna feed, I would use the basic X drill. The reason is because of the movement. The movement is it's something that I can feed, and I've done this before myself. For myself, I've had someone feed this to me. I've experienced it myself. If I'm feeding the ball in order to make a player move backwards, I can feed that and make it realistic. I can give him a target, and I can get the player in that movement, in that pattern of moving backwards, and then coming back to the baseline, and then moving forward and playing a forward moving shot. That pattern can be practiced. Of course, it can be practiced in a rally as well. But I also really like this as this as a feeding drill versus a rally, is because you can use this simultaneously to increase your fitness. It's actually, if you've tried this, it's very hard. You can do sets of these, and your fitness will definitely improve. And even the feed moving in, I can replicate that as well. These types of balls, off a feed, I can replicate a heavy, deep, especially if there's some air movement. I can replicate that heavy, deep ball. At least the player feels like it's heavy of a feed moving backwards. And then the short ball that's usually somewhat dead, I can replicate that as well. I can alternate different heights, speeds, etc. So let's keep going here and look at the. He's going to do the V drill now. And the V is just a alternative to the X drill. It's just another version where you're just going to go and do the backwards movement. And you can move, and you can also make this. You can make this any way you want. You can do 5. You could do 4 or 5 deep balls, and then attack as if you're playing defense, 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 and then the guy makes a mistake, and then you can attack on the shorter ball. And you can make targets. You can teach off of this really well as far as like where the player should be hitting the ball, or where his or her choices are. You can get them thinking differently. You can do a lot with this drill all at the same time. This one here is the same drill but with a volley. You're moving back, playing in the within the service line, or anywhere really near the service line. It doesn't have to be within it, inside of it. Back to play a forehand or a backhand, and then move up to play the volley. And again, you can work so many targets here. I just want to pause this, or we'll let it play. One thing I really like about this, if you're taking the volley and you're coming up to take the volley, you can really mentally hone in on a really small target and get used to doing that. Whereas if you're playing a match, or you're playing all the time, and you're maybe knifing the volley away, and you're having a really time making those like really cool drop volleys, or short angles, or maybe you want to hit a deep ball near the baseline, this is where you can get your mind wrapped around it, where you can really play around with those volleys. Because it's gonna feel so much like a regular game, like a regular point, moving back there, playing that ball, and then moving in. Because oftentimes, even playing, if you just played an approach volley game, let me just mute him for a second. If you're playing an approach volley game and you're constantly having to move up to the net and then all the way back to the baseline, you're not getting a lot of consistent volleys to really mentally make that adjustment. But this way you can get lots of volleys, and this is not the same as being fed just volleys. Let me just say that. This is not the same. There's this guy, watch him closely. He's all over the court. This is a movement drill. This is incorporating max movement, which is what's more likely to happen in a match than these easy volleys that people give. It's up to the player. It's up to the player to do some of those things with the volley that I mentioned. That's the practice. So let's move on to another one. There's a couple of drills here. This one here is not my favorite, but we'll throw it in there. Really challenging drill here. You can do this multiple ways. You don't really need to do it with the racket there. There's many different ways you can do this. You can do this. I also like the player at the net to get used to being close to the net and have players just drilling him at the net. You know, games like that, and see if he can really work his reaction speed and hand speed and make those volleys. Now this one here is probably my favorite, the alternating volley drill, because I'm a big fan of hitting volleys all over the court, back by the baseline, behind the service line. I don't believe in no man's land. There is no such thing as no man's land. That's old, outdated, never was real. Definitely isn't real anymore. But see it here, he's alternating forehand, backhand, moving forward to the net. Then he's going to go backwards. He's not going to go back to the net or back to the baseline. He's going to alternate volleys as he goes back to the baseline. It's hard to see in this video, but just think of this. You got a player there. He's starting at the baseline, alternate volleys, moving forward to the net, and then alternate volleys moving backwards to the net. And many people will think this is garbage because he's moving backwards hitting a volley. Why is he doing that? Well, if you don't know why, I'm not going to tell you, because you're not going to get it. This drill, if you're going to feed, this is how you feed volleys. This is one. I could think of some others, but this is just a video that I found that this is how you feed volleys. You can start. I don't think he's going to do it here. You can start in the middle of the court, the middle of the baseline. You can start in the corners and go cross court with this. And then you can incorporate targets. There's so many things you can do here. You can incorporate swing volleys. You could have a cue. You could have a verbal cue where the coach yells something out and it has to be a swing volley or off the bounce. Like, there's so much variety you can do with this. And this is the kind of stuff here. This is like, I call this is more or less skill building. See, this isn't traditional feeding where you think like you're working on your technique, etc. Notice he's not really coaching it at all. Like, as far as like, he's just motivating him. This is really hard. Now I can make this better, I think, than Sanchez does. But, you know, this is, for most people, this is good enough. Swing volley drill. Now he's probably not going to do the alternating that I suggested, but as a basic format for your feeding. I mean, I don't like hitting off a feed, but when I watch this, I'm like, damn, I want to hit off a feed, because this is good stuff. Right here, swing volleys, forehand, backhand, forehand, backhand. Same thing, verbal cue. Pop the ball up, super high, let it bounce, yell it out that he's got some kind of cue that he has to let it bounce, and he's got to work his feet around the ball, find it, and put it away. You think the swing volley's not necessary? You're wrong. Love hitting swing volleys. I don't know what he's babbling about back there with his microphone on. See, now he's trying to give him some coaching off the back foot, etc. Not really that big of a deal. The contact point is the most important. You start doing this idea of you're already aggressive. You're already in an aggressive position. You start adding this. You start adding the kinetic chain, the quote unquote kinetic chain to it. You're making it more likely for him to miss. Let's put it that way. It's the same thing with the overhead. You watch some of these guys smash overheads in the pros, like Federer. They're just using the hands, very short overhead take back, very short like forward movement, because it's already hard enough, and it's already going to be hard enough for the opponent if that ball goes in the court. I used to pound overheads, and I was good at it. But man, if you get a hard one, or if you're under the lights, you just miss it completely, and it's just you just didn't need to do all that. The other thing is, when you're really working this guy, when you're working the legs like that, they're gonna bend, they're gonna move, they're gonna plant. It's just a natural occurrence of what happens if you're really trying. A lot of times people aren't trying, and that's why they're not doing it. That's why they're not really using their legs, or they're tired, or they're not fit enough. So now he's incorporating. Looks like there's a volley, overhead, moving back with the overhead, forward with the volley, back with the overhead. You could do some really good stuff with this with targets. And this is the conference, the USPTA conference that down in Florida back in 2008. He was doing this presentation, Sanchez. And that's my buddy there, Nate, the backwards white hat. He went to the conference with another coach friend of mine. Let's see what he's saying here.
He attacks from the back. When he plays from the same side. You normally attack from the same side, okay? On this exercise. Come on, let's go.
He's teaching him how to work this drill.
That's short, we start again. Come on, start again, long, yeah,
you can see him feeding it. He's not feeding it correctly. He's hitting the ball.
And now, short,
instead of the way Sanchez does it, where he lifts his arm up in the air.
Yes, forward again. Come on, my man. You play with him. No, he don't play with you. Come on. Make him play.
See, he's talking about making it a game. You got to make it play.
Yes, that's it. Come on, forward. Play. Yes. Come on, play.
So he's not really moving him back enough, far enough.
Come on, play. No. He played down the line. No. We start again. Sorry. Remember. He plays.
This is actually, it's not exactly easy to do. You got to know. You got to feed a certain way to make it realistic. The way he's showing it here. So here he is doing having the player run around the forehand and run around the backhand.
Around the ball, be able to hit it, around the ball. Yes, around the ball, come on. One more. These legs. You need to come to club net a bit, work on the legs. You do the same, okay? I'm going to play a bit lower, like this you have to even turn more, okay? If I give you time, you can in some way fake it a bit, okay? I want you to really turn, and then you generate the power here, in the back, you generate. But with this exercise, they control the leg. What we try that these players control the leg. Yeah? Come on.
Yeah, the only thing again like I said, I don't like about it is I would have a target, and I wouldn't necessarily use the target all the time, but I would have it there at the very least as an occasional reminder, or as an occasional restriction. I do want you do want the players to hit out, and a target will restrict them from hitting out. If you've ever coached players, you put a target, they usually slow down tremendously. But I would use it as a restrictor when they start really hitting out. And if you do that too much, especially off a feed, then they'll never aim. They'll never aim for target. So it's like finding that balance. We're trying to increase the speed. We're trying to increase the physicality of it, but at the same time, we want the speed to be relative to the target. Here isn't necessarily a feed, but standing there at the net or find a spot that you're going to volley from, and then the player plays to you, and you just move them around. Back, forward, left, right. You can see there you can make fun games out of it, so that the player's hitting tweeners, chasing down drop shots.